Right after we incorporated, got our email addresses as Dan described, the first thing we did, we put on our ties and we flew right to Wall Street. And we opened the door to a hedge fund and said, guess what we're doing? We're going to do near real-time overhead monitoring from above, everywhere. It's going to be awesome. And then we slid the paper across their desk and just said, just sign here. We're good to go. We're going to be partners, right? And as you might surmise, there was no deal to be had. Those guys looked at us and said, yeah, it's cute and all, but come back to us when you're real. Come back to us when you have real data. Well, it turns out that's a real challenge. We're going to get real data from a satellite that was still years away from being reality. So we looked at ourselves and looked at each other and said, well, what do we do? How do we provide interim proof points in a business where the real milestone is putting things in space at large cost? It turns out Skybox is a lot more like a medical device company or a semiconductor chip fab in that you put a gazillion dollars in before you get $1 out. And before you have that alpha product. I mean, we're 4 years in. We still don't have a product, and we're working towards it. So we put our heads together and came up with, well, okay, we're engineers. So we busted out our laptops and started to write, in MATLAB, made ourselves some simulated imagery. Held that up to customers. Didn't do much. So then we said, okay, we'll buy up all the satellite imagery that we can find today and hold that up to customers. And so, well, just imagine, close your eyes, that instead of 6 months old, this is 1 hour old. Instead of a still picture, it's video. And instead of being $2,000, it's going to be $20. It got a little bit of the juices flowing in the customers, but still wasn't enough. So finally, we said, screw it, and we went and bought a Learjet and drilled a hole in the bottom and put a camera to be able to fully replicate what we're going to see from space. Well, that helped, actually, quite a bit. And it was pretty fun in the process. And so in doing so, as we finally got out and engaged with a bunch of customers, we realized that the people that were going to work with us initially weren't those hedge funds. It was a bridge too far. It turns out that the folks that were most interested, had the most pain today that we could help solve, were international organizations and governments that didn't really want to go through the hassle of putting up, designing, and flying spacecraft themselves. They just wanted to borrow time on our first or second spacecraft as it flew over their territory. And that was, for us, it was a big shock. We didn't appreciate that fully until having gone through the process of identifying and creating that proxy product.